unexpected. Can't imagine I'm going to be live too long. It depends on the numbers. Yesterday, the number must have gotten too high because we were steadily climbing and we got like 17, 18 viewers, and they hit my phone so hard that I had to reset. Like I had to literally shut it off, or I had to reset it power wise, and even then it still took a minute to reconnect. But I mean, that it's not true. I'm just stupid and making up stuff. And I mean, don't take me seriously. They don't do anything to our phones. They don't have any control of anything. They, and we are just el stupidio, right? You know how it is. So yeah, fuck everything Israel. Got 2 songs recorded yesterday. Gonna do 2 more today at least. I don't know. It's harder than you think. The right energy. And the way that I do it, I have to get the verses. All the verses are done 1 take each. There's no editing involved. I know he could, but I just don't like it. And he could do it flawlessly. It's the weirdest thing, he can do it flawlessly. Like, there are plenty of edits and songs. I just never, I don't know. I'm an idiot. I'm a perfectionist. Our newest one, the one that should be dropping today. Well, I mean, I don't know when he's going to get the video done, but should be dropping today or tomorrow. Fucking fire, man. Literally one of our best. It's funny how it really does depend on him. If he puts the right music to it, the lyrics are always going to be there. But it depends on the music. And he tapped into something, so hopefully this is part of that change that's in the air. I wrote a song yesterday that I want to record and get it done, but it's funny. Like, there are certain songs where, I mean, I know we have to censor it to release it. We have to edit a bunch of shit just to release it. And we've done it before. Usually every time I mention J stuff or Israel or whatever, we try to bleep it out just because we have to. But this one's a call to end Judaism, so probably not going to be taken lightly. It would require a whole bunch of edits. That's what you do, right? Like, I mean, if you're in my shoes, if you're an idiot who doesn't want to succeed and make money and all that, you make the art songs. Like I consider our shit art. It's not safe. It's not. It's killed. Drinking Bacardi. It's not going to be one of those songs. And, if you like those songs, you like those songs. What can I say? You're a simpleton. And we all have that simpleton aspect of ourselves. There are plenty of songs out there that they're just, like, especially the older I get, like nothing but a G thing. It's like, Dr. Dre is not a gangster. Good morning, Matt. It's just silly. And then the glorification of the worst. The glorification of the pimp, the glorification of what it means to be black. Like, it's all fucking stupid. I felt like that when listening. It was just important. Had a lot of it. Well, I think we do the same thing. Yeah. I mean, again, I call it fourth album syndrome, third album syndrome. And it's based on Led Zeppelin 3, right? Led Zeppelin 3, like, it's hard to imagine it because in the historical sense, it's already happened. You know how it worked out. But when Led Zeppelin 3 came out, like, imagine you were a huge Led Zeppelin fan. You bought Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. You knew every sound, every word. You listened to their albums all day. And then you hear Led Zeppelin 3 is coming out, and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. And then you put it on the record player, and you hear this, country sounding album. And you're like, wait, where's the wall of sound? What the fuck is going on? And you kind of get taken aback by it. And there's a lot of people who probably were like, what the fuck? Put this away. And 2-3 weeks later, they're at a friend's house or whatever, and they're like, what are you listening to, man? And the guy's like, oh man, that's that Zeppelin album. You haven't heard it? And you're like, yeah, I bought it, but I didn't like it. And they were like, oh, just give it a chance. And you were like, you actually listen at this point because your initial shock of it not being what you expected has worn off. And now you listen and you realize, holy shit, like, this is some of the best they've done. This is some of the best. Tangerine, isn't Tangerine? Yeah, Tangerine's on that album. Ramble On, I believe, is on that album. Led Zeppelin 3 is amazing. Hangman. Plus, Bronyar Stomp is on that album. Bronyar Stomp is my favorite Zeppelin song. Well, In the Light is my favorite Zeppelin song. I don't know. It's either In the Light or Bronyar Stomp. But Bronyar Stomp doesn't even say anything. But either way, you have to put down your expectations for Led Zeppelin when you listen to that album. And that's what I suggest you do when you listen to us, because if your expectations are that it's going to sound like anything else you've ever heard, you might be disappointed because it won't. At least we know you're paying attention there, goofus. Like, I love when people do that shit, right? You think by pointing out how obsessed you are, that makes me look bad. You have no idea what my day has been like. You sitting at your mom's house, watching me, living through me. You just, no idea. I'm up at 5:30 every day. What time do you guys get up? 5:30. Gotta get the kids up, do an exercise routine, make breakfast. What is it? It's a lot that goes on. It's 5:30. Well, then you must be in California. Nice. Wish I was in California. Every day of my life, I wish I was at California. Baby gets up at 6, so I like to have coffee first. I made a decision in my life, especially based on my mom, that I would never drink coffee because I never wanted to be compromised. I never wanted to say, I never wanted to be one of those people that's like, man, I just haven't had my coffee yet. You know, my wife. I never wanted to be like that. But, you know, you get up before the kid. That makes sense. You get up before the kid. You do your, you know, you have your little you time to get yourself prepared. And it's exactly what you should do. You shouldn't. It is what it is. But yeah, I miss California every day of my life. Every fucking day I'm alive, I think about being in California and how much I wish I was there. And I just, I miss it so much. You know, it's something that's hard to describe, but like I was never bothered by like being in a traffic jam in California. Right? Because at any point in California, when you're in a traffic jam, you could just look out the window and you'd be like, holy shit, look how beautiful this is. You know? Look at all these mountains. Look at all these beautiful trees. Look at this. Like, it was, I don't know. I just miss it every day. Of course, you know, I needed to leave, but. No, homeless drug addicts, that's for sure. Yep, that's me being a homeless drug addict that I am.
This seems pretty cool for a homeless person.
I mean, I got a nice little cardboard box here. Oh, I hate that shit. People print on shirts. Don't bug me until I've had my coffee. All right. Like, they sound like fucking crackheads. And some of them are. I'm telling you, my wife's that way. And why wouldn't you be? It's a drug. It's a fucking drug. It affects you.
I was that way in the morning before I just started drinking coffee, though. Unfortunately, it just.
I mean, you make excuses. You're not that way when you're in situations you want to be in. When you're with your friends and you're doing all your shit, nobody has to leave you alone and give you the space. And it's just a choice you make.
When we went on our retreat in the morning, it was me, Shannon, and Stephanie that woke up early. And the three of us would get our coffee, sit at the table silently.
Sure.
Silently.
Sure.
Until the others woke up.
Sure.
Sure. What happened?
Okay.
You joke about it still.
Uh-huh. The fact that you wake up early is exactly the point.
I mean, it wasn't early. It was just earlier than the youngsters.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But whatever. I don't want to. Everything you say and do is right. I'm wrong, and that's the way it needs to be. And I'm okay with that. It is what it is. It makes me happy. Yeah, the whole what the Jays have done to California, to the idea that there are so many homeless people, it's really terrifying because it's like it's the beginning. Everything we're seeing is just like a precursor to what's next. And you know, all those homeless people and shit, lots of them are like, well, lots of them are veterans for sure. But, you know, a good portion of them have mental issues. A good portion of them have physical issues. Like, it really is fucked up. It's fucked up that we live in this America that allows this to happen. Wow, of course, we give endless money to Israel.
I bet you if we took all the prisoners out of the prisons and put them through testing, at least 80% of them would be suffering from some sort of mental issue.
Something. Some sort of percentage.
We don't take care of our mental
Maybe
health.
left California, Texas, Florida, Texas.
And life's so hard that, you know, it causes depression and anxiety, which leads to other mental issues.
Definitely. And one of the biggest aspects of that is the dysfunction. Is the way that you're raised, and then you essentially choose to be who you are without really having much choice. You know, you are. Yeah. It's strange because I wish I could do this more openly and freely, but I can't. I don't. You know, it will. You know, it'll. It just is. There's too many examples of it where choices get made. We make the choices we want to make. We live the lives we want to live. To some degree. I mean, yes, there are people that have, mental compulsory stuff going on, blah blah blah. But for the most part, like we choose the things that happen, and then there are other things that come from the choices we make. That domino effect bullshit. And we tend to pick up the first domino at whatever point we want it to be. We don't want to go all the way back to that actual first domino. And so many of us, I mean, it's our parents. Our parents made us all fucked up. And our parents made them all fucked up. And their parent, like it's just what it is. It sucks. But we have some people writing in who knows what. Can't read that. But like it's incredible to me that so many people are Muslims. What an insane choice to make. At some point, sure, you're raised in that brainwash cult bullshit. But then you grow up, especially if you're a female. Like how, maybe the sect that you grew up in lets you, have a lot more rights than the other sides do. But how do you then go, okay, well, yes, I'm this sect, and I'm not going to, like, there are women, how the other sects treat women, and you still belong to it because, well, not me. But that's what it is with everything. People belong, people pick what they want to believe, so it fits whatever bullshit narrative they choose for themselves. It really is. It really is just fucked up, and that's what I've always said is the real threat I bring to the table is the insistence on getting over the dysfunction. You can't. I hate this. I hate this so fucking much. I don't know. I try to think of things but yeah. Again, it's just fucked up. It's just fucked up. Anyway, Israel's the bad guy. It's because they trick us into being this way. Can you imagine how, like, all the people that were raised in these religious households, right? Super religious households. Something bad happens, so everybody sits around and prays about it. How is somebody supposed to come out of that with any real problem solving? With any sort of reasonable mentality? Oh, well, something goes wrong and I pray about it. Okay, well, then what? But it's like, even like cigarettes. Cigarettes are a great example, right? Why would you ever smoke cigarettes? Once you get to the point where you're not some dumb kid anymore who thinks it looks cool, because you're a child born before 1990, and cigarettes are in every TV show that you see. As an adult in today's society, knowing that they fucking kill you, knowing what you're gonna do to your family, knowing what how much money they cost, why would anyone do that? You know, well, I'm just not ready to quit. Well, when do you think you're going to be ready to quit? Like, what, you know how stupid that is? That's the same thing with vapes, though. Why are people buying something made in China, but it's banned in China? Why? The whole thing about vaping is you have no idea what that shit does. None. You don't know. It's new. They haven't done the long-term studies. Mhm. But as soon as these are the things where, you know, we end up being almost distracted by it. We're distracted by a dumb choice. My wife literally vapes, smokes cigarettes, like she does all these things. She coughs all throughout the night. She, you know, it's clearly affecting her. She doesn't care. She smokes menthol cigarettes. Menthol. The ones that they made specifically to kill black people. Yeah, that's a good idea. And if you show any sort of concern, like, hey, you know, it's concerning. Like, what do you get total attitude. It's not like it's like, I really appreciate your concern. You know, it's like, nah, I'm fine. And then I'm not ready to quit. And it's like, it's like this weird defense mechanism gets triggered. And it's a negative one instead of, because you're not doing something positive. You know, you're doing something horribly detrimental, but you're trying to justify it. And that shit's just terrible. I was a victim of Juul my 8th grade year. My body never felt so horrible. Glad I didn't get hooked. Propyl glycol vaporized is insane. I mean, you know, it's the craziest shit. Like, it's so weird to me to be married to someone who is so, like, she's a Wiccan and a pagan and a whatever. Okay, whatever. She believes in signs and in the earth and the, you know, the rocks and the energies and the stars and you know, got to be healthy and the system fills us with poisons and all these things. And you'll never see her without a Coca-Cola, a coffee, and if you're outside the house, a cigarette. Like, how do you do those things? How do you drink Coca-Cola? Knowing that shit, there are videos after videos of that shit, like cleaning off rusty bumpers and shit like that. Like, what? You're putting that in your body? And believe me, I understand that there is hypocrisy. I see it. The difference between I want to get past it. I'm pretty sure if I wasn't with my wife, I wouldn't still smoke pot. You know, I think at this point I probably would have quit by now. But it's just, how do you be around it every day? Not saying it's good, but making a point is all. The rule is in lots of foods, so being incinerated and eaten is better.
No, we have to
I mean,
our food up too.
I think what the problem is there's the stuff that we know, but then there's the stuff that we just don't know. There's the ingredients that they don't tell us about, or that they just mention, but we don't know anything about it anyway. So,
well, under a certain percentage, if the ingredient only makes up a certain percentage, it does not have to be disclosed.
right.
So I'm sure that percentage changes depending on the classification of the product, whether it's for skin use or for ingestion or whatever. That percentage number varies, I'm sure.
Sure. Like, do you guys remember in 2019 when suddenly vitamin E was being put into vapes for some reason, and it was creating what was called popcorn lung, and you saw all these. See, the biggest issue is, again, when you're me, you look at things through the Hollywoodism lens. And when you understand Hollywoodism, it changes the perspective on things. Milk thistles give reduce. The issue is when anything is subjected to heat, it changes propylene glycol. When vaporized, sticks to things easily. The vitamin E bullcrap was about street weed carts, not vapes. Yeah, but the question becomes, vapes have been around for a long time. Weed carts had been around for a long time at that point, years. So what suddenly made everyone start putting vitamin E oil into them? And where did everybody get the vitamin E oil? And who was like, hey, everybody all across and all, use vitamin E oil? There's a different piece to this that doesn't get brought up.
Well, it's probably the same concept of when they started putting strychnine or baby laxative in the Coke. Everybody started doing that all at once, too. Whatever mechanism did the vitamin E was the same one that did the strychnine and
to a degree, I guess. Yeah, maybe, yeah. That makes sense.
And it was probably people at home making their own carts, going, "What else could I put in here? Oh, vitamin E oil. That's natural."
But again, why would that be this universal thing that so many people suddenly thought to do in the same quantities? And that's not. It's like meth, right? Meth, even crack. You know, I wrote a song about crack, but where did these things come from? How did these incredibly difficult chemistry recipes get into the hands of street people?
Maybe it was as simple as all they do is they release a recipe on the dark web in the right groups, and then those people disseminate that information throughout.
Sure, whatever, that could be it. But who is they?
To begin with.
Who is they, and how does they do that?
The same day it is
for
everything.
The thing with like meth, they couldn't get crack in everywhere because crack comes from coke. Coke is hard to get into certain areas. So whoever came up with that magic recipe to turn coke into crack and then released it to the streets, 1985. The news is all doing, like, it's so crazy to step back and remember, like, all of a sudden the news and everywhere and every news station is talking about, hey, you know how we've been telling you cocaine was like the designer drug of the fucking rock stars and the powerful people forever? And you couldn't afford it, though you wanted to do it? Well, guess what? Now there's a much more affordable, much more powerful version of cocaine all over the streets. It'll make you crazy high, and it's super cheap. Stay away from it. Stay away from it.
How did meth get created? That's something.
That's what I'm talking about. That's where I'm going with this. That's where we're going. Yeah, it's the same concept as meth. Meth is straight up chemistry.
And neither one were used started out as a potential medicine that could heal this or that.
Well, the whole thing with meth is it supposedly came from the Nazis. The Nazis were doing meth.
For what, though? How did they create that?
Well, there's that, but I doubt it's the same meth that, Jim Bob in Oklahoma is doing, And it obviously, if it took all that time between the Nazis in the 40s to the 2000s for the it must be different. But how did that happen?
Oxycontin was created as a pharmaceutical. Meth wasn't. Crack wasn't.
Meth is how did the idea of you take Sudafed and you take some fucking paint thinner and you take some I don't know the recipe. And
isn't it fertilizer?
No, I don't know. Maybe some meth is. Maybe, I don't know. I'm sure there are multiple different meths. Jeremy used to talk about.
They show fertilizer tapes or whatever. So I'm just assuming.
Jeremy used to talk about fish tank meth and how he would, You mix a bunch of chemicals in a fish tank, and then you hang a bunch of strings from the lid and just leave it for a while. And after a couple of weeks, you get these huge, big, they look like rock candy because the chemicals all congeal and coalesce and create on like. But how did Jeremy's dumbass didn't come up with that? So not only how did that shit, who came up with it? What scientist came up with this? How did that recipe get in the hands of so many different people, all at the same time?
And again, obviously, it was created to fuck up the masses. I mean, there's no other reason. Again, it wasn't created for pharmaceutical purposes or, hey, we think this might do this. All it does is fuck people up and take their lives from them. That's it. So was that their intent?
Of course.
That's
they do that shit all the time. That's the thing. Like, you know, you don't hear about meth devastating the J population. You don't hear about crack devastating the Jays because, you know, as a population, they're more focused on education and intellectual endeavors. Weed is legal where you are too, right? What do you think of those THC diamonds and shit? I don't fuck with any of it.
THC, I
Nothing.
don't even know.
I don't even like dispensary weed because it's all chemically.
When the dispensaries here first opened, they were good. They were flooded by a bunch of people that had been growing already illegally, but doing it, you know, well. And then slowly over time, we started to see the weed change. It all started to become mildewy and moldy and premature. And
I think it was like that the whole time.
It was.
I never liked
it. It was not this bad.
I never liked
Green
it.
Genie and shit, it was not this bad.
Never. It was always. I was always sending you back to Green Genie. At least once. At least one of the flavors you would get, I'd be like, I'm not smoking that.
But over time.
And then she'd take it back and show them, and they'd be like, holy shit, you're right. Like, I know what weed mold smells like.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't. You'd be surprised.
Like 98% concentrated, zonk your brain type shit. Yeah, but how do they get it?
Yeah, well, how does that get created?
How do you, what is this diamond made of? And, you know.
And humans have not proven to create any compound replicating something that happens naturally better than nature. So, like, what out there is really better than the plant growing in the earth without having a bunch of additives?
Obviously, like, if you smoke weed compared to smoking one of those diamonds, you're going to get way more fucked up from one of those diamonds.
Yeah, but it's not from the weed. It's whatever they've added to it.
Well, no, I mean, it is because they figured out a way. Like, the weed you smoke is only, like at best, like 30%. And that's at the very best, 30% THC. So if they figured out a way to make these little concentrated 98% THC things, what's that other 2%? You know, what are we talking about? Weed is never naturally that high in THC. Even I hate wax. Wax is just unbelievable.
Butane. Wax is butane.
I prefer live resin personally, but they are right. Yeah, I mean, the any of that wax shit. Yes, they can make it without butane, but a lot of it's made with butane. And I just I don't know. The real, what we really should be doing is eating it. That way we don't involve any sort of smoke, because it's the smoking that's killing us. And believe me, I think about it all the time. I think about the idea of, like, holy shit, my kids are gonna have to stand next to my cancer bed. I don't want to do that. So I really like getting to that point where instead of smoking, I just eat it. I'd like to get there. I don't smoke anymore for 3 years plus, but I did really like hash from a trip to Morocco.
If you could get real hash that wasn't that perfume shit.
Edibles hit too hard for me. Let people drive or function if too high. Yeah, but you can adjust it, especially if you make your own. You know, if you make it and it's too strong, and don't put as much in it.
Oh, and the shit that you buy, the edibles from the dispensary are gross.
Yeah, they're mass produced, and they always taste like chemicals. But that's the weed they're using. You know, the weed that they're spraying all the bud hardener on, and all the fucking fertilizers and all that shit, like to make it all crystally and lime green. And most of the weed at the dispensaries is premature anyway. I'd much rather smoke outdoor weed all day long. Give me some nice, stinky, ugly, it's not super pretty outdoor weed. Grown in dirt. You know, the dirt that's fucking just as poison as everything else. Because it's the truth. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just lying to ourselves. You know, look at what they spray. That shit comes down. That shit's in all the soil. It's in the water along with the fluoride that's in all the water. See, this is like, I really have been like, the change that's coming. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, I'm sort of getting tired of, not tired of, but I just, once I feel like I'm being distracted, or I feel like I can see the ruse, if you will, like, it really makes it hard for me to continue doing it. And I think it's really interesting how vocal and loud, you know, and prominent the vax community, anti-vax community is, or, you know, even like you know, the, the anti-drugs, all these different communities that exist. And they exist, you know, by choice. People make the choices to be that way. People make the choices. Um, but like the when it comes to something we I mean, we have a choice. If we were to actually fight, we could do something about it, but we don't have choice on things like chemtrails, even more so things like the fluoride in the water. I don't know why that one's sticking with me so much, but it really is, and I think we really need to be focused on that. Well, the cartridges, there is no combustion but low power vaporization. Yeah. But of what? What is vaporizing? I don't know. It's crazy. You know, the it's crazy how, like, especially like you'll see that weed smokers tend to be the ones that question things the most. So you can understand why they would focus on that. But like I say, let's talk about something that's not just like, you understand that your mother, your grandmother, your young little nieces and nephews who jump up and take a drink from the faucet real quick. Like, everyone you love is being affected by fluoride. And they're probably being affected in ways that we're not even thinking of. You know, the fact is, like, me smoking weed is a choice that I do. I choose to smoke weed. I know there are risks. I know whatever, but it has its benefits for me. And it has its benefits for me not because I'm just smoking to get high, even though I think that that's the only reason you need to smoke weed. Like, personally, I think all drugs should be legal. People that are doing drugs don't need to be punished. You know, most of the time, if you're going down that path where you're like, you know, really fucked up doing hard drugs and shit, it's because your life is terrible. You're trying to just get a glimpse of it's not terrible for a minute. Yeah, but you are saying only weed smokers would focus on this? That's not my point at all. I said only weed smokers would do what? I love when people change what I say so they can argue a point. If I were to say only weed smokers, blah, blah, well, then you might have an argument. But it's not only weed smokers. Nobody said only weed smokers. There are plenty of people who don't smoke weed who focus on the same things. But if you need to change what I say to make your argument, then what's your true motivation? These are the things we have to talk about. I'm not a robot and memorize every single word. Oh, well, you definitely use words. You choose to use words that benefit you. Then you memorize every single word, but then add that one word that makes your argument, because that's the operative word in that sentence. If I say only, then yes, you have an argument. But if I'm saying that just weed smokers tend to do this, yeah, that there's a lot of variety that can come from that statement. I didn't change a thing. Don't even try. Oh, you didn't add only. Okay, gotcha. I repeated something you said. Yeah. See, this is where again it really sucks that people aren't big enough, right? That you're not secure enough, that you're not man enough to be like, oh shit, you know what? You're right. I did do that. And that's you got me on that one. Like that's how I always judge people, right? Things will come up where you have the opportunity to acknowledge that you might have been wrong about something. And when you can't say, you know what, I was wrong about that. I'm sorry. I didn't even think about it. Or I didn't mean to. Or maybe I was programmed to think the wrong way. Whatever it may be. When I'm sitting there, like I could sit there and be like, you did this. You just got done saying this. Blah, 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 blah. Why, blah. This is another example. And you just not going to say anything like that. It's so devastating. It's so... Like it just erodes any sort of confidence or trust I have in you. You know, when you're somebody that can just oh shit, you know what, I was wrong about that. Yeah, not a big deal. Like that's how you get better. Realizing that you were wrong is how you get better. And if you just cannot realize you're wrong about the small, stupid little things, then how the hell are the big things going to be changed? Same it. Now here we go. Here we go. Now I'm doing this and I'm doing that and blah blah blah. I'm not even gonna bother. Like it's just fucking stupid, man. I've already proven that you did something. I already proved. I read your comment, and that's what triggered the whole thing. You added a word to make your point. And you said this, and I didn't say that. But that's literally, this is how this happens with every little thing. And that's what sucks. You know, I've met a few people throughout my journey. One person, her name is Leah. Leah's a really cool chick. She was injured by the Gardasil shit. It's like all fucked up. Like it's really sad. Her situation is really sad. Leah Bia. She. Well, let's see if we can't find her real quick. Tell her to come through and say hello. 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 Miscommunication is the root of a lot of disagreements. Yeah, sure. The people leave because, yep, I'm wrong. Look at this guy having a total temper tantrum over this, right? I'm now all my people are leaving. I do this every time. Same BS, blah, 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 blah. All this crybaby shit because he got called out on something. And he's not big enough to admit it. And like I say, I mean, when I see that that's the type of person you are, I just start ignoring you. I mean, it's like there was that one guy that was trying to be all smart and he knows about gravity and blah 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 and he's trying to portray himself as this expert on aviation and all this other shit. And he says, "Yeah, you know, commuter airplanes fly thousands of miles per hour." And I was like, "No. No. They fly at around 500 miles per hour." "No, they don't. You don't know what you're talking about. Blah, 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 blah." So I looked it up. How fast do commercial airplanes fly? Between 485 and 600 something miles per hour. I read it. It's what it says. And instead of that doofus going, "Oh shit, you know what? I was talking about," not even that, not making an excuse, just going, "Oh shit, you know what? I was mistaken. My bad." He's coming up with, I was talking about that. I was talking about that. You were, and blah, blah, same blah, blah, blah. It was just like, dude, you're just wrong. And once you're wrong about something, like, it's one thing to be talking about theoretical germs, theoretical gravity, theoretical this, that, and the other. But when we're talking about something like simply factual, like airplane speeds, what's the problem there? Why wouldn't you just say, "Oh, I was wrong"? When you can't acknowledge being wrong, then again, how can we trust anything you say? Nothing you say has value anymore because you're not the type of person that can admit to being wrong. It's such a strange situation, and it's so prominent. It's literally everywhere. It doesn't matter who you talk to or what you talk about. Like I was saying, Leah came in here one day and was talking about the whole weird spelling thing that took off a few years ago, 10 years ago. And how she had sort of started reading about that kind of shit. And I had already lost one person who I actually kind of considered a friend in Nikki Matner. You know, she had, her and I had a social history and, you know, social media history. And she started doing the whole spelling thing, you know, I went to the store, EYE went to the store, like, you know, where you know, you speaking, it's called spelling because you're casting spells and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, what are you even talking about? You know how stupid that sounds? How does the magic know all the languages? Because if you say the spell in a different language, it's still gonna work, right? They're still spelling, right? Like it's just such a ridiculous waste of time, especially considering, you know, if you're trying to write anything at length. Nikki's post started getting really weird, and you'd have to sit there and be like, "What the fuck is she saying?" She capitalized certain things, and like, it was just strange.
Oh, it was so annoying to try to read.
"I think you're taking it a bit too personally, dude. From the end, guy said something that miscommunicated his point, and then you misquoted him. So I didn't miscommunicate my point. My point was the same as it always is. I don't even know. I have no idea what miscommunication I let out there, but I disagree with that. How did I miscommunicate my point? I'd love to know what you're saying there. I'm pretty sure this spiral came from him literally offering a veiled compliment to weed smokers by saying they are more likely to question things. It wasn't even a veiled compliment. It's more along the lines of the government realizes that That's why that's part of the reason they demonized it for such a long time. And if you look at the way the world has changed, and attitudes have changed, and tolerances have changed, since weed started becoming less reefer madness and just, more, peace, love, and happiness, like it's connected. So the idea that they would take advantage and poison the weed at the dispensaries, Operation Cast Thy Bread, but in the dispensaries, and like, that's not that hard to make those connections. That was the point. But we ended up going off in some crazy direction because there was a temper tantrum had. And the temper tantrums are consistent. The temper tantrums show the point. And you have to remember, I'm creating content right now. I don't have a script that I'm going by. I'm shooting from the hip 100% of the time. So if the conversation goes in this direction or that direction, I'm okay with it. I'm prepared for it. I'm prepared for the unpreparable. I don't know. I feel like those points were veiled a bit in how you said it, which is why I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't veil anything. Again, what you're doing is letting us know who you are. You're the type of person that does thinly veiled things. I don't. I'm very, very forward, blunt. I don't see the reason for thinly veiled anything. And pointing out the little dysfunctional things we do is how we get better. That's the point of this feed. So if you come on here and you provide the example of one of those little dysfunctional things we do, like adding words or like insisting that I'm saying or doing something that I'm not doing, so it makes your argument, I'm sure you do that a lot. I'm sure you do those same, it's not just me that gets this treatment. I'm sure you do this in your everyday life. We all do. And you see that thing with the adding words, or my wife does that to me all the time when we're arguing. Where she'll add in a word or like I'll be talking about, a specific thing. Oh, it's so right. It's all my fault. Everything's all my fault. And it's like, no, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this specific thing is your fault. And that's okay. It's okay. It's not an end of the world thing. It's not a, you get punched in the face kind of thing. It's, hey, you did this thing, specific thing. And you know what? You actually kind of do it a lot. So maybe if you could see what you're doing from the people that are affected by its perspective, then maybe you'll change it, because it's a negative. And if you're saying it's a positive, I'd love to hear your reasoning for it being a positive. I know from your perspective, it's a positive and that it's a distraction. It's ad hominem. It's bullshit. If I'm talking about a specific and you go, oh, it's everything, and well, that's your way of getting out of it. Because now I got to sit there and go, no, and we go in this other direction instead of continuing to address the thing that was being talked about to begin with. And we should all be doing that. We should all be trying to help each other get better, help ourselves get better, help our lives get better. If you're with somebody that's constantly affecting you, I'm not going to say anything. I'm constantly affected by what you're doing. I think poorly of it because of it makes me think poorly of you because of it, blah, blah, but I'm not going to say anything. You're just supposed to mind read it. What kind of fucking crazy is that? Oh, the veiled may have been the wrong word. No, that was your point. Stop. See what I mean? Instead of you going, you know what, I'm wrong about this, now it's that the word might have been the wrong choice. No, your accusation that I was saying the thing for this purpose was wrong. I wasn't thinly veiling a thinly veiled compliment to weed smokers. That's just a dumb thing. I'm not complimenting anybody for doing anything. You know, the point was we were talking about how we're like why I didn't like dispensary weed at the time, actually, and the chemicals and shit, and the way that you know it's legal now. If you don't think that they've figured out a way to take advantage of the legality, you're crazy. You're crazy. Of course they're gonna do that. There's no other place where you go buy, like, you know, I mean, when you go to the weed store, you gotta sign in, you gotta give your ID to get in, and then everything you buy is cataloged and saved forever. That's fucking weird. You know, I could go to the store and I can buy gallons of alcohol every fucking day, and nobody's keeping track. But the system's keeping track of the weed, and it's, you know, you have to sit here and come up with some bullshit. You know, I have some sort of ailment that I need the weed for. You can't just say, yeah, I wanted to smoke some weed. I want to get high. Like, it's just a fucked up joke. And then to think about how many people's lives they ruined over weed for decades.
Especially those that do have a medical reason for using it. Those people still got, you know, in the same amount of trouble as the people that just wanted to get fucked up.
You might want to delete that comment. My brother works at the dispensary, and he showed me some of the profiles they build for customers. It's crazy. As long as it's not showing you customer profiles, because that's a HIPAA violation.
Well, no, it is customer profiles.
Well, no, if you're
creating profiles for the customers.
Creating profiles for the customers, meaning I think he's creating. I don't know. Yeah, again, I don't care about being passionate. No, in Canada, it's not medical information. Oh, Canada. I don't care about any of that shit. I don't care about being passionate and blah, 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 blah. You're wrong. It's important that you be able to say you're wrong. When you can say I'm wrong, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference, and especially with the people that you're communicating with. You know, it might not affect you as much, which it should. It should affect you. For you to realize you're wrong about something, it should, you know, it should affect you. But the people that you're talking to, that again, with my wife, if I can bring up anything, and she's not going to say she was wrong. And I could tell you that, like, from my perspective, almost 20 years of being, you know, of never admitting to being wrong, that affects the way that you're seen. You might not like it, you know, but it's the truth. Like, you can't be like, you know, why do you treat me differently than you did when we were together in the beginning? Well, in the beginning, it didn't work that way. I never thought it would be a system where I'm always wrong 100% of the time. You know, when you refuse to acknowledge that you might have done something or whatever, that just erodes confidence and trust and all that shit in you. You know, if you come up to somebody and you're like, hey, you just did this to me, and they go, no, I didn't. Like, what the fuck? Somebody bumps into your car, right? Jump out. Hey, you just bumped into my car. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. Look, you're still touching it. No, I'm not.
There's Alex and I on our way to convocation. The lady swore she didn't hit us.
And it made you feel like you didn't have any respect for that person. You thought, what an asshole. It's not even damaged. Why don't you just be like, oh yeah, sorry, are you okay? Like, I didn't mean to do that. I'm glad your shit's not fucked up. I'm glad my shit's not fucked up. Are you okay? Like, that's the response you expect from someone. But when they just look at you, they just, no, I didn't. You fucking lose respect for them. And imagine, like, especially if you're in a long-term relationship, that shit, that same feeling just building up every single time to where the person gets to the point where they go, I don't even want to fucking, what's the point of even telling you something? If I tell you something, you're just going to tell me I'm wrong. So it doesn't matter if you literally just did it. My mother-in-law said some shit one time, and my wife brought it up, was like, hey, you can't say that stuff. That was fucked up. She was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, hey, you know, it's not like caused a fire or something. You just said something, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't say that kind of shit anymore in front of the kids or whatever. No, I didn't. And you just look, and you're like, what do you mean? Like, why would I lie about it? Why would I? What benefit do I get out of this? It's a negative all the way around. There's no invisible audience watching that I'm trying to impress, or you need to impress, or why not just be like, oh shit, I was wrong about that. Yeah, you know, that slipped out. Yeah, you know, I didn't even realize I said it, but now that you pointed out, yeah, that was fucked up. I won't say shit like that again. Okay, cool, thanks. That's literally how that conversation should go. Oh man, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Yeah, that shouldn't be said. I won't do that again. Thanks for pointing it out. So think about it from that perspective. You point it out, you say, hey, you did this, and the person says that, oh man, I lost my head for a minute. I'm really sorry, I won't say that again. You're right, you know, that was inappropriate. I won't say that again. Or maybe I will, but I'm going to try my best not to. Or they go, no, I didn't. Like, how are you going to react to both of them? Are you going to react just the same way to both situations? You know, the person that says, no, I didn't, it's going to put you on the defense. Put you on the offense. And that shit happens whether it's on here, whether it's... I believe said the word was added was only weed smokers. It's there. Like, that's what I'm talking about. It's right there. You can go look for yourself. If you haven't removed the comment, then anyone can go look for themselves. You added a word that changes the entire narrative. By adding that word, then you have your argument. If you didn't add that word, your argument wouldn't be there. This happens a lot when I'm talking about white people and racism. I talk about how racist white people are all the time. And people say, what do you mean only white people are racist? What do you mean all white people are racist? Nope. Didn't say that. Did not say all white people are racist. But white people are racist. Yes. There are lots of white people that are racist out there. And if you're not racist, you shouldn't have a problem acknowledging that there are a lot of racist white people out there. And of course, immediately, you're always going to get people who say, black people are just as racist, but other people are racist too. Which isn't true. At least in the United States. And I know there are those seething right now. What the fuck? No, black people can be prejudiced as fuck. There's no doubt about it. Black people can be, the Asians here can be prejudiced, and the natives can be prejudiced, and the Mexicans can be prejudiced. And everybody can be prejudiced as fuck. Really, really super prejudiced. But racism has to do with culture, with government, with the ability to decide how much money goes into this area or that area. You know, the schooling, the busing system, like we were talking about in Boston. That's racism. And that's, no other colors have the numbers or the power to be racist in this country. They're just super prejudiced. But man, oh man, every single time I say that, people get so upset. So upset. And I get called racist all the time. Every time I'm talking about white people, that I'm racist because I talk about how racist white people are. How you're geared and designed to be racist. It's part of the programming. Being more prone to question things is a positive thing, so that's why I said it's a veiled compliment to play the line. Who gives a fuck? The fact that you guys are still like, it's so weird. It should have been a thing where, it should have been, oh shit, I didn't realize I did that. But then you're just lying. At the end of the day, I guess, then it would go into a different, you're just lying. You chose to put the word only when I didn't say it to make your point. See, this is the deeper level that we need to be on. We need to have this deeper level of understanding and understand that, we aren't just chickens with our heads cut off running around. We do things by choice. We do things, sure, we make mistakes, no doubt about it. But for the most part, everything we do by choice. And especially when it comes to any sort of intellectual anything, if you're having some sort of discussion, especially if you're having it with me. My wife does it all the time, and she knows exactly what she's doing. This is the thing, is I give you more credit maybe than you do. Because I think you're smarter than you're trying to portray yourself as. Constantly saying, oh, I didn't know I did that. I didn't know I said. Yes, you did. You chose to say it that way on purpose. So you would have your argument.
Everybody does that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
White people are racist. You're starting that argument, knowing damn well if you just said most white people are racist.
That wouldn't be an accurate thing.
Bring that argument up, but you choosing to say white people are racist gives people the argument that to come back and say not all white people, so then you can have that debate.
I guess that's why I do it. No, I think I'm just doing it because it's a fact. But see, like right there, she's trying to get me back.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you and saying we all
okay, I know, and you're not doing it. See, again, this is where I know she's smarter than she's gonna let on. She sit here silent the whole fucking time, but then when it's that one time to put it back on me, she pipes up because it's like what she's doing. It's just what it is. And no, it's like the same thing as saying Black Lives Matter. When you can't say those words and you look at it like, no, that's starting a fight. Same thing. Nobody says only Black Lives Matter. Nobody's saying other lives don't matter. It's just a matter of fact. Black lives do matter. White people are racist. There are lots and lots of white people that are racist. I don't know whether it's the majority, most, some, whatever word I throw in there really won't matter. You're not arguing because of the number that I'm saying. You're arguing the sentiment. You're arguing the idea that that white people are racist. Nah, that's not true. You don't like that. But the reality is you're made to be that way. As Americans, you thinking that because you're American, America's the best, you're entitled, everybody, everywhere you go, people should speak English and, all these things. That it's just part of the programming. It's part of keeping us at each other's throats. And you can always tell, you know, if you're not racist, you have no problem saying, fuck yeah, white people are racist. You have no problem with it. And when you start looking at it honestly, you understand, you know, all that prejudice that white people receive is a result of white racism. You get rid of the white racism, and you're going to eventually get rid of the prejudice. But you have to understand, like, see, that's the thing about white people, is they'll be like, well, we stopped doing this, so why does everybody still harbor resentment and think we're, not trust us? We said we stopped because you've said lots of things before.
Any idea who this partner is?
My thing
It's
is,
deeper than that. People want not only you to stop acting racist, but stop thinking racist too. And that takes many more generations to weed out. And that doesn't happen as fast as freeing your slaves that you owned. You still think that you should be able to, you just can't anymore because it's illegal. So that mentality, though, takes generations to breed out.
maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know that every generation that I've had of my family believes that you can't talk bad about the Jays. You can't see that for what it is. I know my kids see it for what it is, and well, at least have a glimpse of it. And as they choose to keep going, whether they choose to go that way or not, that's on. But that's one generation. You know, 1.5 if you include me.
It was already starting with our generation.
Yeah, but it started with us, spontaneously. Nobody fostered it. You know, our generation was like, hey, we can't be like this. We can't be like this, and it turns into a more focused argument. But because so many people are brainwashed into still thinking like to me, if you want to talk about racism or you want to talk about politics or you want to talk about any of it, you can't put limits on it. You have to be able to talk about it to the next level each time. So you make this point and it's like, all right, well, who runs that? Oh, well, they run that. Well, who runs that? All right, well, how does that work? And we keep going. And if you stop yourself because, it's like, hey, well, doesn't it seem like that person, 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 that blah, blah, blah. There's the 2% of the population here in the United States has an extremely disproportionate number of elected officials and all that shit. They make up much larger than 2% of the government. They make up much larger than 2% of, of lawyers, doctors, all these things. How does that work out? And unless we're willing to talk about what we talk about, I agree when you say BLM, and that is silly if people assume that's only in the front of the people that do that want to do that. There is no reason for you to have an issue with Black Lives Matter. My wife and I argue about this one all the time, which is weird. I'll tell you that. Fucking weird.
All I've ever said is if people added the word to, then white people wouldn't have such problems with it.
Yeah, they would.
No, they wouldn't.
Yes, they would. White people have a problem with the sentiment. They will find the problem. If two was added, we would have never heard about it. That's what the song that we wrote years ago was about. That if they would have just said two, it wouldn't even be a thing. We wouldn't even know about it. Nobody would be Black Lives Matter. What are you talking about? It'd be just another one of those things that never went anywhere. The only reason it went the way it did is because it made white people so mad. And when the Jays who control the narrative saw how mad white people got, they broadcast it everywhere. They saw, hey, this makes white people really upset. Let's show it everywhere we can. And it worked. But there's absolutely no reason why it should be a problem. If you're not racist, you should be able to be like, yeah, black lives do matter, for sure. No, dude, all lives matter. I love the example of it's like, okay, so if the house across the street was on fire and I was like, hey, let's put out this fire, would you be like, no, dude, we have to put out all the fires? No, this house, right here, this one, let's put this out. Yeah, but there are other houses on fire too. You can't just say this one house. Like, it's the stupidest shit. If you said some, it would disambiguate it.
Oh yeah, not some.
But it's probably fair that people assume for all in front of it. No, it's not fair. It's not. It's just, instead of assuming, instead of presuming, instead of adding your own spin to things, which is how we got here to begin with, just hear it for what it is. Black lives matter. Yes. Not all of them. You know, not all of them when you consider like to me, like, see, for me, I don't think pedo lives matter. I think we should kill them. But if you're not willing to say that we should kill them, then yeah, all lives matter, I guess. Oh, I was right on this one. Matt was right. You aren't very good at admitting you're wrong. My wife is right on which one? What you talking about? Which thing am I wrong about again? If you could be more specific, I'd love to hear it. What part is wrong? You know, it's so interesting how now it's my semantics. So you can't actually give the example then? You already wrote it out. What did you already write out? Again, you said a bunch of weird shit.
The Black Lives Matter thing, it reminds me of when we went into a very, very dangerous hood club one time. Like the kind where they, you know, you had to check your weapons at the door and go through metal detectors, and like it was scary. And I think I was the only white person there, and you were the only halfie there. And got up on stage and he did his incredible piece about racism. But the first line of that piece is, I hate black people. And then he stopped and paused, and the whole fucking room, people stood up, like about to go rush the stage.
She's exaggerating.
No, I'm not. I was sitting in that crowd, and that, all the tension went to 100%.
Yeah, but
it's
only a 2-second thing.
I hate white people too. You paused an extra amount of time.
But only like 2 seconds. Nobody had a chance. What? It was already like...
My point is, by the end of the piece, everybody was standing and applauding you. However, it took a long explanation to get to that point. That's the same effect that Black Lives Matter has. And if you think that people want to sit back and hear the explanation, then you're giving them too much credit.
It's not the same thing.
Because the ignorant people out there aren't going to wait for that explanation.
It's not the same thing. You're claiming me saying I hate black people, pause, I hate white people too, is even close to Black Lives Matter? Like, this is the white mentality. The phrase, I didn't say anything about a movement. I wasn't talking about movements. I'm talking about the phrase. Black Lives Matter is equivalent to I hate black people.
I'm not saying
I hate white people too.
That's not what I said.
No, you are. That people aren't gonna.
That it had the fact that you put out something that could be construed as inflammatory, and then have to explain it so that it's not.
Okay, but Black Lives Matter is not inflammatory.
Obviously, to a lot of people it was.
It should, right, it is, because a lot of people are fucking racist. That's the point. I knew I was being inflammatory by saying what I was saying. That was the point. That's the point for the pause. It's to make people go, what the fuck? Right? But Black Lives Matter was in the context of things, Black Lives Matter was created in response to the fact that unarmed black men were getting shot left and right by police at that time. It wasn't about the school systems. It wasn't about black on black crime. And this is literally what is done to black people every single time. I'm going to go on a little sidebar here. I always talk about this. Whenever you see a black guy win something or get some money or whatever, everybody's like, well, how are you going to affect the community? What are you going to do with the community? How much of that money are you going to give to the community? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, I worked hard for this. I won the lotto or whatever it may be. Why am I responsible for giving it? Do you guys do that? It never happens with white people. You don't see the white guy win something and everybody's like, well, how are you going to affect the community? Black Lives Matter wasn't about affecting the community. Black Lives Matter wasn't about pregnant black girls and drug issues and all of these things that white people turned it into. Because if they could turn it into all those things, then they could minimize what it meant. It's the same shit as adding only.
I think only would have been completely wrong.
No, I'm talking about the guy in my feet. Making something into something that you can argue instead of just taking it at its face value. And this is one of the most, like, the deepest, most ingrained versions of racism that exist. And so many white people will pretend like they're not racist, but they'll say these same things. You know? There is no reason why Black Lives Matter should be inflammatory, especially in the context it was used, because it's screaming Black Lives Matter to a bunch of cops who don't seem to think so. I mean, the idea that the guys that created Black Lives Matter ended up getting some money and then buying themselves houses and all this other shit. Oh my God, how dare they? How dare they happen to come up with something that just happened to work out. They had no idea it would have the social impact it would, or that white people would take it as far as they did. But they ended up getting a nice chunk of change out of it. And then moved themselves out of the hood and bought themselves nice things. And everybody made it sound like, well, why didn't they get that money and disperse it through the community if Black Lives Matter so much? What the fuck are you talking about? That shit is only put on black people, and it's always put on black people. Black people are required to act like fucking clowns. You know? When you look at the first black guy to win Survivor, this is one of the most embarrassing manufactured things I can think of. So 106 in Park used to be hosted by AJ and Free. And AJ and Free were like, just as stereotypical,
perpetuating this
what Jays, who are the programming directors and producers and all, what they want black people to be, those two were the epitome of it. And so when the first black guy won Survivor, he was a guest on 106 in Park. And he wasn't some street guy. He was some nerdy black guy. But he comes out onto the stage, and AJ and Free are there, and of course he's got to be like, yo, what's up? Because he suddenly becomes that guy. And they start talking to him, and they're like, yo, you won that $1 million. What are you going to do with your winnings? And he was like, well, Probably gonna buy me a Bentley and give me some ice. And of course, the fucking idiot crowds go, ah! And AJ and Free are like, hell yeah, yeah, boy, yeah. Because that black dude can't come out and be like, all right, you know what? I want to stop things and I want to say listen, kids, I won that $1 million, but the government takes about 40%. So let's just say it was $1 million. I walked away with around 600,000. Now I have agents. I have other people that I need to take care of. So they took another, 100,000 from me. I had some debts. I had some other legal shit I needed to drop it down to, 450, we'll say. Now that 450,000, I can either take it and I can invest it into businesses or some others. I could even put a good majority of it into a interest-bearing account that will just slowly make itself money, or I can invest into something that will make money. Buying fucking stupid J diamonds that are worthless when you walk out of the store. Paying what, 200,000 for a used Bentley? Like that's all fucking clown shit. That's some clown shoe bullshit. Don't ever do that. Don't waste your money on diamonds. Don't waste your money on expensive cars. Get yourself to the point where an expensive car is nothing, then you can buy it. Fine. But use your money wisely. Invest. Make your money into more money legally. Imagine if he would have said that shit. Imagine how many young black kids would have been affected in a positive way by that shit. Oh, blah, blah, blah. You splitting hairs and everything, and nuance, and blah, 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 blah. Again, this dude makes the claim, and then when I say, okay, what are you saying? You said I got this wrong. Tell me what I got wrong specifically. Now it's the exact same nonsense. It literally is exactly what Matt did. You do blah, blah, blah. This is why you blah, 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 blah. This is why you lose your viewers. And you just in the hairs and the blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's me. It's always me. I am the one that is wrong because I think we should take responsibility and accountability for what we say and do. How dare I? How dare I think if you come up to me and say, hey, you did this. And I go, oh, shit. Like, I know I did it. Maybe I didn't realize I did it or whatever. But oh, well, yeah, you're right. I did do that. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Like, or I can, if I didn't mean to do that, or I can, address the situation for what it is. And I can't tell you I'm perfect. I'm not the type that is, if you were to come up to me and say, well, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you do this? And I'm not going to be like, well, because I don't like you. I won't be like that. So I guess I still play a part in it. But especially when it comes to how do we get better as a whole? How do we move forward as a community? This is a requirement. Obviously, everything else hasn't worked yet. People have been believing in Jesus all of the time. Allah all of the time. Stars and horoscope constellations and energies, all that shit has been that way for a very, very long time. And it hasn't worked yet. As much as I want to make life better for my kids and grandkids and the grands and grands and grands that I'll never meet, I want my life to be better. It's not just, I only have this one shot. I'm not going to, whatever ends up happening, I don't know. But I want my life to be better. And my life is only better if we address the things that are wrong. And if you can't address the things that are wrong, how can they ever improve? They can't improve. It's not how that works. You can't just deny everything that's wrong, everything that you're doing, and it's, oh well, it's just gonna get better. We just sweep it under the rug. We just wait long enough. We just do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. And for me, like, it's one thing when you're the perpetrator, the perpetuator. It's another thing when you're victimized by it. When you're the person that's doing it and they don't have the problem with it, you go, yeah, well, I don't see the problem. I don't care. But when you're on the other side and you are forced into every day, being surrounded by it or forced to see it every single day, and knowing that, like, if it was up to you, you would change it. I would change these things. But it's not up to you. And you can't change like that. I mean, our system is like that. Look at we give Israel so much money. My tax dollars, your tax dollars. And yet we have no choice in that. I can say every single day how much I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I don't want it. This, that, and the other. And they go, you're wrong. We're not doing that. And then I'm sitting there every single day looking at the results of something I want nothing to do with. Something that I would change if I could. That's hell. That's hell. Living in a situation that you could, if you could change it, it's changeable, and you would change it, and you should change it, because obviously it's not making you happy. And not, having like they always say, the first step is to acknowledge the problem. Having the awareness of the problem and being forced into continuing to that's hell. That's hell. I literally wrote it out twice. Really? You're wrote it out twice. Loses argument. I didn't say all gay people are dumb. What are you even fucking talking about? This dude is an idiot. Dude is an idiot. I mean, it's insane. And the funny part is, we're all racist. We are all racist. We don't realize it. Some of you can be the biggest, like, I think everybody's equal, blah, blah, blah. I don't have any hatred in my... And you're still racist. If you believe that white people can't say a word, you're racist. Black people can say it. They could say the abbreviate. They could say they changed it up. Now it's Nigga and not Nigger. The ER is what makes it racist. You realize how stupid that is? That's some racist bullshit, and you just don't understand. You don't get it. Every time you deny racism, you're racist. Not the real racism, not just some dumb claim. It's they have us when you say things like black unemployment. Well, black unemployment is way down. That's some racist bullshit. The whole idea of a black community is some racist bullshit. We all fucking think that way. We all think of a black community. Why would a black community be any different than a white community? Clearly it's not. But when you see white kids that embrace the what is considered black culture, I mean, you don't hear the term anymore. I haven't heard anybody say it in a long time. But when I was young, they were called wiggers. Wiggers. And it was either a white nigger or a wannabe nigger is what that was supposed to mean. Wiggers. And I never thought of it that way. It wasn't until my dad pointed it out to me. And I was telling him a story about this Wigger kid, and he was like, "What? What did you just say?" And I said, "This Wigger kid, this guy that dresses all." Like it dawned on me as I was like saying it, like you don't even realize what you're doing. Same thing with you Christians, right? You just don't realize it. Like how do Christians believe in a system that makes them second tier? Christians believe that a completely different religion, the bad guys in their Bible, because it's not Satan in the Bible, it's Jays, that the bad guys who killed their superhero, killed their Jesus, that they are Christian God, they killed Christian God's only son, and they are Christian God's chosen people. How did you ever get there? But see, that's the kind of shit that fascinates me. I'm so much more concerned with the bigger picture. Yes, I'd love my personal situation to change, but not enough to do it. Like if I really wanted, it's a weird thought, right? It's weird to think I could easily be a mega millionaire. If I just decided to start going live and being like, last night I was woken up to a fiery Jesus standing in front of my bed. I looked over, my wife was still asleep, and Jesus said to me, "You are on the wrong path, my son. You need to spread my word. I command thee of thee," and blah, blah, blah. He told me, don't take down any of your old stuff because I want people to see how you used to be and now how you've changed. Don't hide who you've been, but be someone new. Do you know how much, like I could sell so many Bibles? If I decided to just push the religious narrative, I could be rich. I could be famous. I'm good. People have already proven that they'll watch me talk about the bad stuff. Imagine if I was catering to what they wanted to hear. I started hiring my friends to have ailments that I could heal with my touch. With the push. I call it the push. The push. I'm going to push Jesus into the wound. Push. God is good. Oh my God. Especially with the birthdays bullshit. If I told the family lineage and the birthdays and the Jesus connection, oh man, we could be rich. At the end of the day, I choose this. And it's because I'm a bigger picture person, I guess. If I wanted to be selfish, I'd just lie to people and sell them Jesus. They already buy it. I just have to sell it to them. I have to tell them what they want to hear. But I couldn't be that and then have to deal with the well, now that you're this, you can't talk about the genocide. Can anybody show me the Kenneth Copeland 700 Club Jew for the Jewish Jesus guy? Can you guys show me any of those guys? Benny Hinn? Any of those guys talking about what's going on with the Palestinians right now? And I don't even want to talk about the Palestinians necessarily. because it's not Free Palestine. Free Palestine is just the slogan they give us. Now, what do we do? Like, can you imagine the people in Lebanon being like, Free Palestine, when the Israelis are attacking them? The Americans and the Israelis are attacking them. The Syrians, all these other people in that region that are being victimized by Israel. And we're talking about Free Palestine? The Free Palestine was yesterday, man. We had the chance at that. That narrative is long since been changed. But again, we're not supposed to talk about the big picture. The big picture is end the Jayism. I want everyone to be free. I want access to the information. I want the Tartaria stuff. It's abundantly clear that something else happened in our history. I really don't know how anybody at this point if you spent a day looking into Tartaria, if you spent the time on my page, or that you spend on my page on looking into Tartaria, I don't know how you can continue to believe the narrative. And such a weird thing about the Tartaria stuff is how many people believe like the Jesus stuff and the Tartaria stuff work. Like, to me, once you understand that Tartaria existed and the idea of resets and shit like that, how, if the Jesus narrative is around 2,000 years old, and the last reset supposedly happened somewhere in the late 17s or 1750, something like that, who knows? If you understand that something catastrophic and reset sort of happened, then how does anything that's supposedly 2,000 years old still have any validity whatsoever? Like, it's fucking crazy. These are the places we need to be at. And the problem is, like, I'm so fascinated by how language got to be what it did. And especially when you know about like Hebrew being the youngest language on the planet, created by Eliezer ben Yehuda around 100 something years ago. 100 years, like there are pictures of the guy 100 years ago, somewhere right around there. The youngest language on the planet. And to think like all the different languages, all these different, how did all of this happen? It's fascinating, but we'll never know. Unless we override the Jays that control the system and control that history and keep giving us the bullshit history that we have, we're never going to fucking know. The reality is, we all want the same thing. We want the answers to whatever. We want the truth about whatever, because, it doesn't matter who you are. You look at the narrative we live in and it's wrong. There's so much wrong. It doesn't feel right. And it's going to continue to feel that way, because we're all really good truth barometers. I don't care what any of these idiots say. They don't come here every day because I'm wrong. They come here every day because either, one, they have a job to do. Some of them have a job. But truth is sexy. I'm not saying you want to fuck it. I know some of you want to fuck me, but the truth is one of those things that you're drawn to, whether you like it or not. And you can see people struggling with it. People struggling with that truth. Oh, well, you said we're this, and it's like, okay, well, let's break it down. Tell me what you're having the issue with. Validate your own thing, and make my thing seem wrong. And it just never works that way because we all see it. We all see that we're being lied to on just so many fucking levels. We see that they control, like the whole idea that the Jays control the money in Hollywood and government. Like it's a joke. It's a joke that everyone makes. Ha ha ha, yeah. But when you start talking about it for real, everyone sort of clams up. It all came from space. Right? Because you believe in space. You believe in infinite space. I hate to say it, and it's this weird ass thing for me, but
Astronauts just landed.
yeah, the ones that were stranded up in space for all that time, right?
Yep.
Right.
The dolphins met them in the ocean and were swimming all around the capsule when they landed. There's footage.
Yeah, I know. Oh man, that's so silly. That's just so silly. Why were they stranded?
I don't know. They were up there for 9 months.
Right, 9 months. Let's see. Let's see what the narrative is. Why were the astronauts stranded? NASA astronauts Suni, her name is Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore have arrived back on Earth safely after they unexpectedly spent 9 months in space. They were only supposed to be on board the International Space Station for 8 days, but technical issues with their return capsule meant they had to remain in space for 286 days. So, how did they have supplies? If they were supposed to be out there, where did they get the food and the air and the water and all that shit that they had to use? And if you say it's because they had
pump in water and turn it into. Oh wait, no.
Yeah, they pump in the salt water and then electrocute it and then pull the oxygen molecules out of it. But how did they do that? And the obvious answer is they had supply ships and whatnot that came up. But if that's the case, then why didn't they just get in one of those supply ships and fly home? I mean, it's just fucking stupid.
There's room in the supply ship, stupid.
Oh, we've got the picture of her with her hair standing up in front of the flag. The hair standing up thing is so stupid. The hair, it stands up like it's solid, like it's got a bunch of hairspray in it. We're carried away on stretchers after return home from space. Here's why that's normal. Well, it's interesting because I seem to remember that it used to be they had to be quarantined for like 3 months. Remember that? The astronauts would come back and they'd have to decompress and blah, blah, blah. And they'd have to live in a pressurized unit and be monitored for why? Nowadays, they could just be carried by people. Remember that one time a couple years ago when that chick landed in like Russia or whatever, and the people carried her because she couldn't walk right, and they were carrying her. Yeah, just keep carrying her. When astronauts return from a prolonged visit to space, they are often carried out of their capsule and placed on stretchers. The stranded astronauts, Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, were no exception. Here's why. On Tuesday, March 8th, NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico inside a SpaceX crew capsule, ending a more than 9-month stay in space that was originally slated to last just a few weeks. When their capsule was finally opened, the astronauts were carried out of the spacecraft and loaded onto stretchers. The astronauts were not sick or injured. The reason for this procedure has nothing to do with Williams and Wilmore's specific mission aboard the International Space Station, but is simply a matter of protocol that all astronauts must follow, experts told Live Science. That's not true. Again, it's really strange. When astronauts return to Earth from space, they can't immediately walk upon landing. This is due to temporary changes in the body that occur in space, a fact that NASA addresses with strict safety procedures. A lot of them don't want to be brought out on a stretcher, but they're told they have to. John DeWitt, director of applied sports science at Rice University in Texas and a former senior scientist at NASA's Johnson Space Center, where he developed methods to improve astronaut health during spaceflight, told Live Science. Space motion sickness. Just like someone might experience motion sickness on a roller coaster or while riding in a boat on choppy waters, astronauts can experience dizziness and nausea when they return to Earth. Primarily for this reason, astronauts are typically rolled out on a stretcher after their landing as a precautionary measure. Funny how they keep saying that same phrase. No real details, but repeating of phrases or wording. The temporary sensation occurs only because our bodies are designed to take advantage of the constant force pulling us down here on Earth. Gravity. Oh, that's what it is. However, orbital space habitats such as the ISS are in perpetual free fall toward our planet, which creates a feeling of weightlessness for the astronauts inside and prompts their bodies to adapt to the altered environment. Perpetual free fall. Remember that. The ISS is not floating around, it's falling around the planet. It's perpetually falling into the Earth at 17,500 miles per hour, some shit like that. Because of that gravitational force. One significant change occurs in the sensory vestibular system within the inner ear that's crucial for maintaining balance. In space, this system becomes accustomed to ignoring certain sensory inputs as the brain adjusts to weightlessness. So when astronauts return to Earth and gravity is reintroduced, they begin readjusting once again, which can temporarily cause space motion sickness. Although we don't see any of that. There's not a single piece of footage of that. And as a matter of fact, they always want to get out and walk and shit. Another change astronauts experience, especially those who spend long durations in space, is gradual muscle and bone loss. Of course, yeah, that makes sense. While walking here on Earth is usually sufficient to keep our muscles strong due to gravity, astronauts in space don't need their muscles as much. This lack of activity causes the muscles to weaken and shrink over time, leading to a condition known as muscle atrophy. Sure it does. So, it's interesting how I want to find why they were up there. So let's click on this part that said, welcome home, NASA astronauts who spent 9 months in space, in orbit, finally back on Earth. Nope. Here's the SpaceX capsule. Oh my God. That's so silly looking. So, I'm trying to find why they were stuck. What were the problems? Why did it take 9 months to rescue the astronauts? Because of faults with Boeing's Starliner, Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore had to wait 9 months for a ride back to Earth on a different spacecraft. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. There was only one spacecraft capable of going up there. It's the International Space Station. Why wouldn't any other country be able to be like, oh, hey, you can use one of our ships? Doesn't that seem strange? These are the narratives, man. You have to believe this. Understand that. You don't get a choice here. You have to believe this narrative. What did the stranded astronauts eat? They survived on a diet including pre-cooked meals and freeze-dried options. Okay, so are we saying that the International Space Station has enough food on it for 9 months? Like, this thing isn't, it isn't supposed to be a Walmart. The fact that they would say that they just happen to have 9 months worth of food on board. Oh, here they are. Here they are, just cooking away up in space. Doo-doo-doo. This is so stupid. The two astronauts who stranded in space over 9 months returned, blah, blah, blah. Their spacecraft successfully splashed down, blah, blah, blah. NASA took blah, 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 blah. After a journey of 17 hours, it took them 17 hours to fall to Earth?
Yes. Yes, that's what they said. I saw that yesterday. They landed at 5 something last night. Oh yeah, makes perfect sense.
It doesn't take that long to get up there.
But see, trying to fall through get gravity is really hard.
It took 17 hours for them to fall? Come on, man. What are we even, what game are we fucking playing here? Why would it take 17 hours for them to fall to Earth?
There's a package of 2 more of these left. We grabbed one out of there. In the corner. It's right on top in a box with plastic around it. Box it down.
How was that?
Oh, you got attacked by the peacock feather.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was like, what the fuck? I know something hit me in the head.
It's a peacock feather.
I'm sorry. I guess I'm just stuck on stupid mundane details here, but it took 17 hours to get from the space station to the ground?
Yeah.
And look at the dumb J comments on here. Everything. Explain it. What could possibly take 17 hours to get from the space station down? What were they doing? What takes 17 hours to fall to Earth? You know how slow you have to be falling to take 17 hours? Explain why it's not possible. I'm not making the extraordinary claim. This is what stupid people do when they get called out, right? How do I explain how something doesn't exist? Tell me, come on, prove it. Explain how there's not a leprechaun dancing in my hand right now, doing a little jiggity jig. I'll make the extraordinary claim, and then I'll just rely on you to disprove it. You tell me how something takes 17 hours to get from there to there. You know what takes that long? Airplane rides. Airplane rides. So if they were being stationed in a base 17 hours away on the other side of the planet, stationed somewhere in Australia where nobody would recognize them or something like that, who knows? And they decided to end the ruse and had them they have to then get back here. Well, they'd have to get back here and then get put in the vessel and then dropped. I mean, even when you look at the thing the capsule, did that thing just? It's teardrop shaped. So what? It dropped, and they just fell free fall speed until the parachutes were opened, and then they fell for another few hours until they splashed down in the Gulf. Like, it's a teardrop. So it had to be dropped and just fall straight down, right? It doesn't have the power of flight. It's not like it was in some sort of weird plane that crashed down. So the teardrop, how long do you think it takes the teardrop to fall? Do you think the rain that falls takes hours to get down to the ground? I know the rain is a lot closer, so I'm only saying hours, not 17 hours. 17 hours? And how does that even work? Like, is it like hanging on the space station and then they push a button and it drops it? Is that what happens? And then the space station is just flying around up there by itself? The computers, it's all AI up there. I mean, at the end of the day, the space station is flying itself, right? You guys realize that? That's what they tell us. There's not a pilot for the space station. It's perpetually falling into the earth at 17,500 miles per hour. And every once in a while, they need to fire the jets to lift it up a little bit. And it's just computers. Yeah, it's just computers. Once you get up to space, we have computers that can just fly shit all forever. Forever. There's no break, no nothing, just forever. I'm sorry. So, after a journey of 17 hours, since the departure from the International Space Station on Sunday,
What are you working on?
the teardrop was dropped 17 hours ago. It took 17 hours to fall to the earth. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Bro doesn't believe in science. Bro doesn't believe in religion. He believes in nothing. That's what it is. I don't believe in science. Nothing from science is true. Look at how dumb. See? I'm so grateful for these examples of it. Because people are arguing what they need to argue because they can't argue the point. How many more examples of this do we need to see on here? If you could argue my point, then you would. You're clearly here to cause disruption and get your attention. But instead of arguing and explaining how a teardrop-shaped metal object falls from a space station for 17 hours, you're gonna, bro doesn't believe in religion, bro doesn't believe in what he's told. He believes in nothing. I believe in nothing. This is fucking stupid, man. It's stupid. You act the same way. I go, yep, that's what it is. Yep, that's what I. Every time, look at these dumb examples of just the J stupidity. Examples of what? Your point isn't truth because you fail to acknowledge the real things that are true. Like, seriously, how many of these dumbass comments am I supposed to read? Too stupid or poorly educated? Yep, that's what it is. I'm so stupid, I don't understand how a metal object takes 17 hours to fall. That's because I'm stupid. With all the gravity pulling on it. Although the astronauts will now be transported to Houston by helicopter for a 45-day rehabilitation program. Although it truly is a marvel to think, what did they eat? For nearly 25 years, the International Space Station, located 254 miles above Earth, has been hosting astronauts from around the world. 254 miles, not 255, not 256, and definitely not
You could
253.
walk 200 whatever miles. Like, how far could you walk in 17 hours? How long would it take to walk? Or how far can you walk in 17 hours?
I mean, okay, so.
I know it's not, 284 miles.
No.
But it's pretty fucking far. 20 miles?
Well, if you're going 65 miles an hour.
Well, if you're driving, that's different.
Right, but if you're going 65 miles an hour, you'll cover 254 miles in, what, 5 hours? That's driving in a car at highway speeds. This thing was supposedly, I assume, free-falling. I'm not going to look this up.
You can't free fall in gravity. Or no gravity. So how does that work? Right? They tell us you can't free fall in no gravity. In the vacuum of space, there's no free fall. They're floating.
Okay, so they're not just floating. The space station is already perpetually falling into the Earth at 17,800 miles, 500 miles per hour. So it's already supposedly moving that fast. And then again, it's not like there's some sort of plane. This is a teardrop-shaped capsule. They must have just dropped it. I mean, it's not like it could fly out and fly, and it's a teardrop-shaped thing. It doesn't have the capability of flight. So it had to just be sort of dropped, and they're already going 17,500 miles per hour, so it's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's the stupidest, it's just stupid. It just really is stupid. How fast do humans walk?
That's going to change after you've been walking for 6 hours. But, You just think of the marathon.
3 to 4 miles per hour.
Right. Think of how long the marathons take to run, way shorter distances.
Well, I mean, again,
Those
just
people are trained and,
just think about it again. You just Basically drive from here to the other side of the state. Maybe a little farther. I mean, it's nothing. It took 17 hours to fall that fast. And the thing is, wouldn't it be nice if there actually were intelligent people on here trying to have the... Right, to actually explain any of this shit? That was weird. Instead of just the dumb sheep who just want to say shit. Like, it's really weird. I really don't know how else I'm supposed to correct this behavior of mine, right? If I'm seeing something wrong with the narrative, and I'm looking into the narrative, and then when it doesn't make sense, then I go live and talk about it. What else am I supposed to do? The United States and Russia primarily manage this football field-sized research lab, which serves as a key hub for scientific collaboration. Well, it's only that big because of the giant solar panels. On November 18th of last year, the New York Post reported that NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams enjoyed meals that included pizza, roast chicken, and shrimp cocktails aboard the ISS. It's little capsules, right? And then they put it in the microwave like the Jetsons, and then steaming hot chicken comes out. And shrimp cocktail?
Right. Were they chasing the cocktail sauce around the capsule?
How disgusting would freeze-dried shrimp cocktail have to be? I mean, I'm trying to think of something that would be worse than rehydrated shrimp cocktail. Shrimp aren't good after like an hour. What? Apart from those, what did Williams and Wilmore eat? A source familiar with Boeing's Starling mission revealed that astronauts had restricted access to fresh produce to ensure a nutritious diet in space. Where did they get fresh produce from?
Grocery store.
Pigeons.
Pigeons brought them up.
Pigeons flew it up. No, but see, again, I'm the bad guy here. Because I don't just believe this narrative. They had restricted access to fresh produce to ensure a nutritious diet in space. What does that even mean? Restricted access to... How would you restrict somebody to have a nutritious diet? Don't you eat too much fruit. According to an insider, so there's not like any sort of official narrative here. The news is relying on insiders. This is the Times of India. The crew enjoyed a selection of meals, including breakfast cereals with powdered milk, pizza, roast chicken, shrimp cocktails, and tuna, with NASA medics monitoring their calorie intake for health purposes. Who's the third chick? I thought it was just the two of them. And if it's not just the two of them, then why didn't they get aboard whatever whatever was the ship that brought that chick up? A big crew favorite is pizza, with the astronauts adding their own ingredients and cooking personal-sized pies aboard the International Space Station's galley. Items are attached to the galley using tape and Velcro to keep them from flying away in the microgravity environment. An image released by NASA on September 9th showed astronauts Wilmore and Williams sharing a meal in the ISS featuring some of these food items.
ISS shared a few glimpses of pizza night at space in September last year. I'm so confused. Who are these other people? The insider noted that while fresh fruits and vegetables were available initially, they ran out within 3 months.
I can't keep produce good here on Earth.
Oh,
for 3
but you know
months.
what? It's because there's no gravity. The gravity
Keeps
pulls.
the produce from rotting.
Yeah, the gravity on Earth, it pulls the nutrients out of the food, so it makes it go bad faster. There's fresh fruit at first, but as the 3 months progress, it disappears. After that, they rely on packaged or freeze-dried options, the insider explained in November. All meat and eggs were pre-cooked on Earth and simply needed reheating. Dehydrated foods like soups and casseroles were rehydrated with water from the ISS's 530-gallon freshwater tank, which also recycles astronauts' urine and sweat into drinking water.
Ew! Oh! Can you give me salt water instead and turn it into air, please?
Sweetheart.
Ew! No!
Sweetheart. They have a 530-gallon tank of water floating around in space.
Yeah, and then they just hook up to it. It's like a gas station.
530 gallons.
I wonder if they get points for it. Fuel rewards.
This is so
Water
ridiculous. And that 530 gallons is traveling, 530 gallons is traveling at 17,500 miles per hour. It doesn't slosh or anything.
No. Well, there's no gravity. So.
Are we kidding me right now? Urine and sweat.
No.
So, of course,
Get that.
they have this magic system that as the sweat beads and leaves their body and starts floating in the air, it's collected in the system that's, throughout the whole thing. It magic, and it collects it in the system, and then, like, how does that even begin to work? Do you know how silly it is to think, like, that they would have any sort of liquids or anything, that the smallest little liquid would get away from them and go short circuits? Like, it's just fucking silly, especially when you think about when a lot of these components were built. This shit's not like brand new or anything. A specialist clarified that the astronauts' weight loss was not due to lack of food. There's plenty of food on the ISS, even for extended missions. Somehow, where is all this food kept? Each astronaut is provided approximately 3.8 pounds of food daily, and extra supplies available for unforeseen missions. I mean, this is just insane. Do you understand? Like when we go to the grocery store with a week's worth of groceries, we fill up the fucking car. Like, that space is taken up very, very easily. These guys just had this unlimited supply of food. Where did this food come from? Although 2 stranded NASA astronauts have safely returned to Earth, they cannot go back to their homes just yet. The delay, standard protocol, after an ongoing 4 to 5 days, routine with their families, astronauts returning, dizziness, nausea, the period, blah, 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 blah. That's it. That's how this shit works. That is fucking ridiculous. That is fucking ridiculous. This is the narrative that you have to accept. Anyway, I'm bouncing. I'm going to go record. You guys, go get your free download, www.the-bilderberg.group.com. There's a new song, and there's going to be a lot more new songs coming out really soon. It's all free. All we ask is to share it with somebody. Ask you how much you want to pay. You put 0 in the payment box, and it'll give it to you for free. You can put money in if you want to, though. Nobody get mad at you. But we give it all for free. Also going to put the link to Hollywoodism, which is the most important thing you should watch. Do yourself a favor. Look up Operation Cast Thy Bread. Look up Team Jorge, Israel. And look up the Samson option. Those are just some things you can look up. But watch Hollywoodism. And I'll leave you with a link to our Facebook page so you can check out some of the music videos as well. So have yourself a wonderful day. And you pedophiles, kill yourself.